In a lot of Franklin's letters, Franklin addresses Strahan as dear friend, but in this letter he changes it to Mr. Strahan, a much more formal and less friendly introduction. My name's Henry Wilkinson, I'm Head of Education at Benjamin Franklin House, and this room that we're in at the moment is Margaret Stevenson's parlour, which is where Franklin would have received guests and visitors to the house, including William Strahan, who this letter was written to. William Strahan was a Scottish printer who was also an MP and frequently wrote about proceedings in Parliament, which was then subsequently published by Franklin in his Pennsylvania Gazette. The two would have met quite regularly, and most likely it would have been in this room that we're currently sat in, Margaret's parlour, where Franklin would have received his guests. Strahan was a very strong advocate for the American colonies at the beginning. In 1765, he supported the repeal of the Stamp Act, but about 10 years later, when this letter was written, he had kind of switched sides and was now calling the colonists madmen and rebels. The letter was written in July 1775, following the Battle of Lexington and Concord and the beginning of the American Revolutionary War. It also comes as Franklin makes his return to Philadelphia, having just been chased out of London effectively as a fugitive for the Hutchinson affair earlier in 1774. It's a really interesting letter because it was never sent. And I think that captures a moment in Franklin's life where he loses his usual cool and becomes quite emotional. It's a bit like writing a breakup text and then deciding to delete it straight away. You can really get a sense of how he wants to share his feelings, but he's trying perhaps not to send anything that might permanently ruin his friendship. They do eventually actually reconcile, and that might not have happened had this letter been sent. It captures his feelings at the time, where he's been turned away from one of his favourite places in the world. He's come back home and he's reflecting on the state of affairs that Great Britain and America are in. And it really captures as well this sense of the divide that the American Revolution caused between friends, family, colleagues, people on all different sides of the spectrum. In a lot of Franklin's letters, Franklin addresses Strahan as dear friend, but in this letter he changes it to Mr. Strahan, a much more formal and less friendly introduction. Throughout the letter, Franklin talks about my country and our people and our towns, signifying that America is now separate from Great Britain. By beginning the letter Mr. Strahan, he also signifies that there's now a divide between these two individuals. He tells Strahan to look at his hands because they're now covered in the blood of his relations, talking about the once strong relationship between Britain and America and how one has pushed away the other. Franklin ends the letter with the following: "You and I were long friends. You are now my enemy and I am yours. B. Franklin." This final line really shows how hurt Franklin was by this divide between the two and how Strahan had gone from being a strong supporter of the colonists to becoming, as Franklin says, an enemy.